I was like, oh, maybe he's not gonna come on. All right, so we're live here with Pack Geek. You guys might know him from Twitter, his YouTube channel. You can catch him opening up all different sorts of packs of cards there. So, when did you start collecting? As a kid, or did you pick it up again when you were an adult, like I did, or?
Yeah, yes and yes. I started collecting young, started collecting 1985 Tops. Remember chasing after the famous Dwight Gooden rookie in
Oh yeah,
bubblegum packs. So yeah, 85 was the year I kicked things off, and I collected pretty strong for a while, and then ended up taking a break during high school and college when I started trying to take girls on dates and spending money in other areas, and maybe it was less cool to be a card collector.
right.
Gave into the peer pressure maybe a little bit, but then as an adult, I picked it back up like a lot of us do, and my allowance had grown a little bit, and I was able to buy some of the cards that I always wanted as a kid. So it kind of won me back.
So, and now you got this show that you do on YouTube where you open up and it's really cool because I love watching them. I'm like, oh man, that's But so, where are you buying them from? Are these something that from your collection, or do you go out and you buy them, at random places?
Well, a little bit of both. Some of them come out of a small unopened collection I have. It's getting smaller and smaller. But I buy a lot of stuff from either eBay,
Yep.
which where a lot of us buy it. But eBay can be tricky with unopened products unless you really know the dealer and know that they're legit, because there's a lot of shysters out there. I get a lot of stuff from the Baseball Card Exchange.
Okay.
If you've been to the Baseball Card Exchange website, man, for older stuff from 80s and even older, they're the place to go to. Like, they've got a great reputation. Steve Hart is the guy that runs the place, and he actually authenticates packs for PSA, so he really knows his stuff. And yeah, they've got a great selection.
Okay. Now, does opening 80s wax, right? Which is what I love opening that stuff. I was up in the Baseball Hall of Fame over the winter up in Cooperstown, so I picked up a bunch of 89 Fleer boxes, for like $5 a box.
Yeah.
And now the boxes weren't sealed, they were obviously open, but they had all the packs were in there. But then I was a little disappointed. I think I bought 5 boxes. I didn't pull one Billy Ripken. So
Oh, wait, 5 boxes and you didn't pull a Ripken?
Not one. Nope, I didn't pull one. I pulled, barely, not many Griffies. And then I had read somewhere that, that there's a pattern, I guess, with the 89 Flares where you can kind of tell
the sequence. Yeah.
Right.
The sequencing. So a lot of Fleer products have that, where there's a very, very specific sequence. So if you know the cards that are around the card you're looking for in the sequence, they just look for the cards around there. And you can usually see a card on the back, sometimes a card on the front. So you can figure out by looking at the sequence what's going to be in that pack. And it's a shame. It's notoriously common with 1986 Fleer basketball with the Jordan rookie.
Really?
So there's a lot of people that know that sequence.
Oh,
and they know, if there's an unopened pack and they can see one of the cards on it, they can basically tell you who's in the pack.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So even if, right. So it could be legit that the pack has never been opened, but people are, they might sort through. That's why I'm always skeptical about buying stuff, but I do it anyway because I want to, rip it open.
Of course. Well, for that very reason, Eddie, that's why people like the from a sealed case. You see the boxes, the unopened boxes that are marked FASC, from a sealed case, because they assume that if it's from a sealed case, no one has cherry picked the packs out of the box. So it should be, as good as new. But people are getting pretty sneaky with their pack searching these days.
So have you pulled anything like really good out of any of these vintage packs that you've been opening?
Yeah. Every once in a while I get lucky. I will say this though, my show, again, it's called Pack Geek. I post all the videos. So if I open up a box or a couple packs that are total dud, I will post it the same way I'll post if I get some huge hit. The reason being, like, I want this series to be realistic. I don't want everyone to think they buy 5 packs and they're going to pull, you know, a Jordan second year card, which I hit a while back out of some packs.
Wow.
It's, you know, it's always a gamble. It's always a treasure hunt. You don't always find the treasure. Right. So, but to your question, I pulled like a Bird Magic rookie a while back. That was fantastic.
Wow.
They're like one of my really old videos because I started actually doing the series back in 2009, 2010. I did like 18 episodes, and then I quit for about 6 years because I hated the way they look. And I work in video production, so I was like, these look horrible. I don't want this representing me and like the production work I do. Of course, I'm not cameraman, so it doesn't technically represent me, but you get what I'm saying. And one of my old videos from the first batch was 86 Topps 86 Topps football. I opened 10 packs and pulled 2 Rice rookies. So that was one of my favorites of all time.
Wow, that's awesome. How about when you were any good pulls when you were a kid?
You know what? It's funny you talk about the 89 Fleer because I feel like as a kid I opened up like 100 of those packs and never pulled the Ripken. And in fact, one year my mom, she felt so bad for me. I was opening these packs at the local mall. We had a card shop in it. And so when my mom would go, you know, needing some of the mall, I would tag along and she'd drop me off at the card shop and then she'd go get whatever she needed. Well, she came back and I'd blown my entire allowance, $3 or whatever it was, on 89 Fleer packs looking for the stupid Ripken Air.
Right.
And so the shop owner, he was like, watch this. He grabs a pack out of the box, speaking of search packs, opened it and pulled the card out. And I'm like, no way. And of course I'm heartbroken. So my mom says, hey, why don't you go down the way a little bit and I'll catch up with you. And apparently when I left, my mom bought the card from the guy to give to me for Christmas because I couldn't pull one out of a pack. So I think I had exceptionally bad luck as a kid, believe it or not, which may or may not have fueled me wanting to do this series and kind of redeem myself.
I remember chasing the 84 Topps Mattingly.
Oh, yes.
And I was at a card show, and it was probably like 86 or 87. It's probably 87. It was when he had the Grand Slam streak. And I was at a card show with my dad, and I bought like 2 packs, and I pulled the Mattingly. And it was it was like the greatest feeling, you know, as a kid, right? When you see, I just knew that pose because I had seen it in so many magazines. And when I pulled it was such a great feeling. And then, you know, I was chasing, I'm trying to think the next big card. It was the 88 Donruss Greg Jeffries.
Oh, that was huge.
Which, by the way, if I could find a PSA 10 Donruss Greg Jeffries, I'm buying it. I don't care what it costs. But I've never seen them come up for sale. I think there's maybe like 25 of them out there. But I just want to have it. Yeah, I want it for redemption. I just want to have I don't care what it costs me.
I'm shocked that there aren't more Greg Jeffries PSA 10s graded, since like a lot of us have that same fond memory of that particular card. Like in 1988, like people don't remember, but Greg Jeffries was the card.
I know.
That 88 Donruss was
huge. That Donruss one, right? That Donruss one was the one that everybody wanted.
It was.
Now, did you get that?
And then after that, it was like Mark Grace. And now it's Roberto Alomar that everybody wants. But yeah, it's funny how depending on the decade, you're chasing a different player from those sets.
Yeah. So did you so I didn't collect for a while. And then when I had my son 7 years ago, I'm like, oh, you know, I wish I had those cards that I used to have when I was a kid to pass on. So I went out and bought pretty much every card that I had when I was a kid. You know, because you figure this is 7 years ago where they weren't pumped up like they are now. And you could get raw, you know, you could get all the raw rookies from the 80s, you know, for you know, pennies on the dollar. You know, so I went and bought all of them.
So what'd you get?
Well, I got the
Do you remember?
I got the 80 Henderson. The 82 Ripken, all the Flair, the tops. I got all three Mattingly's. I got the tops traded set from 84 tops traded set.
Nice.
The 84 Flair update, the Clemens and the Goodins from 85 and the McGuire, all the way up to the Griffey Jr. upper deck. It probably cost me maybe $250 for all those cards.
I love it. That's like your childhood in collecting in like a dozen cards.
Right. Exactly.
I love it. I mean, the internet takes some of the fun out of collecting these days because everything is accessible. But it's also so convenient to be able to relive those days through a card. But when I say that about the internet, when we were growing up, because we talked earlier, we're about the same age. So when we were buying cards, if you didn't have the card locally at like a card shop or one of your friends that collected, like it might as well have not existed. Like you maybe would never see it in person. It wasn't like you could hop on a computer and get an image of it. Like you might not know what it looks like because you haven't seen a picture unless it's in Beckett or something. So it was an entirely different game back then.
Yeah. You know which one I don't have, which I've never owned this card, was the 86 Donruss Jose Canseco.
That's you need one.
I've never had that card. I don't know why, but now, so what was what's one of some of your most valuable cards that you have?
In my collection?
Yeah, or that you've ever had.
Oh, that I've ever. Well, I mean, this is gonna sound weird, but I've actually sold my entire collection off like 3 different times.
Oh, I did it once. Yeah.
So, well, what was your reasoning?
I was going to college.
Okay.
That
was my first time. Yeah.
I sold it all except for like a couple. I kept my Shaq rookies and I kept the Jordan, and that was it.
Yeah.
Sold everything else.
It breaks my heart kind of thinking about some of the cards I've sold off because I love them and then would like to someday get them again, but it's like my collection has evolved so many different times. The first time I sold mine off was like my childhood collection, and it was when I was in college. I came back one summer and went to like a card show, and sold them to some dealer there. I'm sure pennies on the dollar. But that was when cards were kind of slumping. That was like later in the 90s, and then another time I just developed this random collection of like vintage boxing cards. Like that was where it was at for me. So
really,
I bought a ton of vintage boxing and vintage golf.
What year
they were in like tobacco cards. These were old. These were like early 1900s. Some of them were in the 1800s.
And what year were you doing this?
Oh, this was probably about 2005, I guess.
Okay. This is before they started pumping all that stuff up, right? I mean, you were getting them pretty affordable.
I was, it had to have been after 2005 because PSA. I got these great. So here's the deal. And this was like, I thought it was the most genius thing ever. So I don't know if you know this, but other countries have their own specific eBay. Like Great Britain has eBay UK.
Okay.
And like there's an eBay for France and there's eBay for Germany. And so but they're separate and they have their own listings there that aren't represented in the eBay US.
Mm-hmm.
So I was logging into all these foreign eBay sites and looking for American sporting cards. And what I would come across were these old tobacco cards that were, I can't remember the names of the sets there, but they were like multi-sport sets, and they would have boxing and golf and usually some just random wrestling and stuff like that, but older sports that were popular. And so I was buying those cards from overseas, having them shipped back, getting them graded, and selling them for 10 times what I paid for them over here to collectors that were collecting those particular athletes. And so it ended up becoming good, and I did really well one summer doing this. And so I decided to sell all of my vintage boxing collection and get into like pre-war baseball. So it was just a different iteration of my collection, which I eventually sold off again. And here I am. I've been kind of collecting modern cards, and I PC George Brett and Cal Ripken. I've always collected those guys. Those are the cards that I've never parted with. But yeah, it's just I'm so odd and OCD with my collecting that it's all over the place.
Yeah, I PC PSA 10 Bo Jackson cards.
Nice.
My goal, I want to own every PSA 10 Bo Jackson that there is. Aside from like, like the new stuff, like the 1/1 autos, like I don't care about that stuff, but just the regular, base cards or inserts up until he retired. That's kind of
you want the playing years.
Yeah. So
yeah, I like that too. So do you have like what is your favorite Bo that you have?
I mean, my favorite one I think is the 87 Fleer. I think it's just a great card. Obviously, for the baseball, the 88 Topps obviously is a great card for the football one. But yeah, I mean, I had the 86 Topps Trader, I had the Topps Trade Tiffany, but
nice.
I like the 87 Fleer, and I also like the 87 Topps. I think those two are just great looking cards.
It was 87 Fleer. I can't remember. Was that Fleer update or was that in
no, packs? That was the regular. That was the regular Fleer.
It was in packs. Okay, nice.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But so you've obviously know the industry, right? Because I see you on Twitter and you're always talking.
I feel like I got a deep. I don't consider myself an expert in any way. I'm a collector, but I've been around for a while, so I picked up.
Do you not think that what's happening right now is absolutely insane?
Just the market going nuts.
Like this, 30 million people are out of work. Thousands of people are dying every day, and the card market's up 400% since January.
Dude, it's all the sports gamblers they're spending their money on cards. That's a common theory, but to me that makes the most sense.
Maybe. I mean, but I feel like all the people who I knew that would bet on sports thought it was like, nerdy to collect cards.
Sports cards.
And I'm like, is that what they're doing now? Is everyone buying cards? Or is it, in my theory, is that there's people, I won't mention any names, but there's people who have massive followings on Twitter and Instagram who have a lot of money to spend. And last year they were buying
Barry Z.
Yeah, right. And they were, buying all the stuff up last year. And now they're able to start touting it after they already have it. Right. That seems to be what I think. Obviously, everyone being home, and I think PSA shutting down kind of helped as well. Right. Because you can't get PSA, you can't get anything graded. I think now they just started grading again. But that was kind of my theory. But I'm seeing the stuff from, the junk era that's, Sammy Sosa rookie card is not worth $200.
That's why I think there's some not seasoned or less, I should say. I want to welcome all collectors.
Yeah, of course.
I think there's some less seasoned collectors that are spending a lot of money on cards right now because you're right. It's a lot of base cards, which nothing wrong with base cards, but like buying base cards in wild quantities, I just feel like if that's your investment idea, I mean, good luck, but I feel like it's going to be hard to sell those at some point in time without affecting the market if you bought, 1,000 of the same base cards.
Yeah, well, right. It's annoying for people like me. Like, obviously, I'm just a collector. I sell some stuff, but I was trying to put together a 84 Topps Mattingly art project where I wanted to get maybe like 2,000 of them, really cheap. I don't care what grade they are. And then I had an artist who I was going to pay to recreate the 84 Topps card with all the Topps cards.
Oh, right? I love it.
And I thought that'd be a cool project to do because they made 5 million of them. No one's going to care. No one's going to miss them. Obviously, if they were in mint condition, I probably would have those graded. But, I was going to look for whatever I could for like, a buck a piece, couple bucks each, whatever.
Sure.
And now they're like $30 for, a card that I know is probably like $7, maybe $6 at, tops.
So is it across the board? Because I've been watching basketball cards lately, and they've just gone through the roof. But is it all the sports that are getting inflated at this point?
I remember the for football, right? What was the big set? 89 score. That was the one when you were
in the 80s. That was it. Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden it tanked. I mean, it tanked when they figured out that they made a ton of them. And now recently, I think I saw like a Barry Sanders rookie was like 500. That was the first time that the market started going up that I saw was Barry Sanders. It was like $500 for a PSA 10. I'm like, what? And then you start looking at the pop reports and there's a ton of them. It just didn't make any sense to me.
Well, I mean, there is a ton of 86 Fleer Jordan rookies graded, but that doesn't seem to. I think, and I just recently researched this for an episode of my show coming up. I think there's 27,000 86 Fleer Jordans currently graded between Beckett and PSA alone.
Wow.
Yeah, PSA has 17,000. Beckett, I believe, has 10,000. And it's a little over that. I want to say it was closer to like 29,000. But, I mean, that's a lot of cards for something that, has that massive of a value.
Right.
Because even PSA 8s now, I don't know if you've been tracking Jordan since the Last Dance has been going on.
Yeah.
But PSA 8s are now between like $4,000 and $5,000 a piece.
That's unbelievable. That's great.
Insane. It is so insane. I think they were like an $800 card a year ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a feeling that people are going to be very upset come like September, October, I'm thinking.
When things slow down and.
Well, I think when things get back to normal and you have other places to spend your money, I think people are going to be left holding like 187 Topps Barry Bonds cards, and they're not going to know what to do with them.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who's to say? I mean, realistically speaking, it can't continue at this sort of growth. It's got to kind of, if nothing else, like even off a little bit. I don't know that it's going to plummet, but it can't continue growing like this. There's no way. But yeah. It's interesting to watch, as a collector, just observe. I love all the new people that are getting in, for whatever reason they are. It's fun seeing my friends who haven't collected since they were a kid start asking me about, are those Mattingly rookies still any good? And, getting to talk to them about that when they wouldn't talk about it a year ago. So that's cool. To me, that's a positive outcome from that.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends that are texting me that like, pictures of hobby boxes that are retail boxes picking up at Walmart, and like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this buy today? And I'm like, you collect cards now? Like, no, I'm gonna sell them on eBay. I'm like, all right, well, good luck to you.
My favorite is like the picture from the box, like the monster box of 91 Fleer that somebody's like, so I don't know what to do with these. You want to buy these? I'm like, oh man, that's tough. I don't know that I can part with this dollar now. But
well, it's funny because I think it was a year ago I put an ad in like the local newspapers because I was thinking to myself, well, I don't really want to put anything on the internet because I feel like anyone who's on the internet looking at an ad would already, maybe they know their worth, whatever. So I was looking to buy 80s junk era cards. I went to the local hobby shops and I'm like, hey, if you know anyone selling these, because they don't want to buy them, I'm like, give them my phone number. So I'd have all these people calling me, come check out my collection. So I'd go over there, and I don't know if they're looking at like 89 Beckett's, but they're telling me the prices that they were telling me. I'm like, what are you talking about? These aren't.
It says right here.
They're not worth anything. These are.
It's got an up arrow though, Eddie. It's got an up arrow.
Right. So that was the bad thing because they told the guys who own the card shops like, well, be careful because you're going to waste a lot of time. They still think that they're worth a lot of money. Because I was like, maybe I'll get stuff in bulk. Maybe I'll pick up a 10 somewhere and, bring it to somebody else to send it in for me. But needless to say, I ended up buying a bunch of I bought a couple boxes of pretty much commons and pulled like a Willie Gault rookie. Nothing crazy, but it is fun. That stuff is fun for me when I could go through like a huge box and find like that one diamond in the rough.
Yeah, of course, man. We're all in it. I'm convinced we're all in it for the treasure hunt aspect. Like
Yeah.
it's so fun, whether you're opening packs or going through old boxes of commons to look for something that may have been overlooked that is a little treasure in the 5 cent cards.
Right.
It's always fun. But I in those situations, I always feel bad because it's typically a friend of mine that came across their collection of cards, and inevitably they were from the 90s and they were all overproduced, and they're thinking they may have found something really valuable. And it's always the same answer, like they're probably more valuable to you from a nostalgia standpoint than they are in monetary value. But yeah, it's a shame. Unless you collected 86 Fleer basketball, the one exception.
Man, I could tell you a story about 86 Fleer. I was a sophomore in high school, so this had to be 1992, I think it was, and I had a kid in my class. So the Jordan at that point was about $500 card, maybe a $600 card, and a kid in my class had mowed the lawn or like helped his neighbor clean out her house, and she gave him like 10 unopened boxes of the 86, 87 Fleer. He pulled, I think it was like,
oh my gosh,
like 6 or 7
30.
And I was like, wow, that's, back then I'm like, that's unbelievable. That's like the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I always think about that guy because, they could all be like 9s or 10s or whatever. And he's sitting on like $100,000, $1,000.
Yeah, he could put a kid through college with those.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, who was his neighbor? Like,
no.
why can't I live next to some nice old lady with 10 boxes of 86 Fleer ready to give out?
I never even had seen them in a hobby shop when I was a kid. I don't think. Like I never bought one. I probably would have. I was a Larry Bird fan. I probably would have bought some. But
so I remember them when they came. I remember them hitting the card shop in our town, one of the card shops in our town, the one near my house, and they had them out next to the register. And the only thought that was going through my head was, I heard there's a Spud Webb in this set. That was wow. that was the appeal to me.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean,
who's this Jordan guy?
Who didn't like Spud Webb when he could dunk being 5 feet tall?
Exactly right.
So all right. So on your show, do you so you just you source the cards, and you got a pretty good following, great production. I think everyone should definitely check it out. But do you do cases, or do you pretty much do single packs on your show? What is the gist of it?
I try to keep things moving. So
yep.
if it's I usually do around 10 packs. Like that seems to be a good number where I can get through them. It doesn't take me too long.
Right.
And still talk, and it does make for a super long episode. But I've never done cases before. I've done some boxes. I usually try to have a guest on if I'm doing a box. That way we can split it and we can get through it a little bit faster. But it just depends. But I've never done anything as big as a case. Although I would love to do like a marathon episode where I rip a case of something awesome. Maybe you'll have to come in town for that one, Eddie.
Yeah,
we'll do a case.
So where are some good places to pick up cases? Like if I want to buy a case of 87 Topps, and I want to make sure that it was sealed, where would you go?
Well, I sound like I'm paid to say this, but I would go to the Baseball Card Exchange.
Okay. And
their site, if you want me to give it out, is BBC Exchange. So baseballcardexchange.com. And man, they've got a great selection, and it's very fairly priced. So, and I am not sponsored by them, unfortunately, because that would make a lot of sense.
Right.
And they are not interested in sponsoring my show. If you're listening, Steve Hart.
I've never bought a case before, but that would be kind of cool to have one shipped to my house.
You should.
That would be.
Hey, if you're gonna buy a case, 87 Topps, you can do that.
Oh yeah, I mean.
In fact, the shipping would probably cost more than the case.
Oh yeah, that would be I guess that would be the issue with that. So all right, so you pull something good, you immediately put it in a top loader and send it off, or how do you do that?
Dude, I have to protect them because first and foremost, I'm a collector. So when I pull something good, I got to put on the brakes, get it in a sleeve, get it in a top loader. I mean, we got to do this right. I can't have one of my cards dinged just because I'm doing a stupid video. So yes, to answer your question, I protect it first, and then I love to get cards graded. So if it's something that I think is worth waiting 6 months and spending $50 a card to get it graded or whatever it costs now, I will do it.
Yeah, see, I've never sent anything in, and I am curious, what is like the quickest you can get something back?
I mean, they have well, like PSA, I believe, has a walk. Actually, I think both PSA and Beckett have a walkthrough service, so it's like same day.
Okay.
So you can actually drop it off there and then probably pick it up in the afternoon or something. They have like a 2-day, but I mean, these are not cheap. They're not giving the service away. I think I've done 2-day service at Beckett a couple times and PSA a couple times. I think it's $200 a card.
Okay.
So
wow,
it's got to be something pretty nice.
So how do you know if it's worth grading? That's one of the things that I'm kind of. I mean, I was telling David Pecca when he was on the show. I have that 86 Topps traded card I have.
Mm-hmm.
When I got it sent to me in the mail, it's PSA 10. I looked at it. I'm like, this doesn't look like a 10 to me. This card,
really?
The edges look a little rough on the edges. But then the more digging I did, apparently that's the way that those Topps traded cards just were. So I guess it's acceptable based on what they're expecting the card to look like.
Well, I mean, it's I don't know, that's new enough to where I think it would be held to the same standards that they hold other cards. Now, I will say this: I've seen some mint cards out there that would not have been graded mint had I sent them in. Right. So I don't know if I don't know who's sending them in if they've got some buddy deal, but I have seen some cards that if I had sent them in, if you had sent them in, Eddie, we would not have got a PSA 10 and probably been more like an 8. But right. And like that's one thing people need to remember: are the graders are just human beings. We all have off days. We could sneeze while we're looking at a card and forget that it had a ding corner. Like that sounds stupid, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, definitely.
These things do happen. Absolutely. So it could get overlooked depending on how bad it is. I think some of them it's just it'll blow your mind. And then on the flip side of that, we've probably both seen cards where we can't tell there's a defect on a card, but it didn't get a 10 or a 9.5 or whatever. So and those maybe should have been mint. So I don't know, but I'm sorry.
What do you look for?
It depends on the card. So okay. if it's something you and I talked earlier before we started the episode about Jordan rookies. If I owned a Jordan rookie, I don't. I would grade it. I would grade it in any condition, just because it's a commonly counterfeited card, right. And also it's one of those just kind of high-end cards that people want it graded if they were to buy it or just for their collection. Same with Mickey Mantle cards. I think there is a similar rule with Jordan rookies and any Mickey Mantle like base card. You probably want to get it graded just because there's some counterfeiting out there, and it's you just want to have it authenticated and then keep it in your collection. But I know a lot of people that don't grade, and they have wonderful collections, and they're every bit as happy not having something in a slab. Okay, so depending on the card, and then condition-wise, if it's a new card, like unless it's really expensive new card, it would have to look flawless to me for me to want to get it graded, because the truth of the matter is a lot of like modern cards sell for more raw than they do as a BGS 9 or PSA 9, because of the whole speculation aspect. Mm-hmm. So people, they want to be able to send it in and get that 10, even though, it's wasn't even good enough to grade a 9 maybe. Right. But it's weird when you see that on cards that they sell for less in a 9, like PSA 9 or BGS 9, which is considered mint condition. People would rather buy it raw. or pay more for it raw.
Well, so that's my thing is that I'm either collecting a PSA 10 or I just want it raw. I don't want anything in between. Because
I understand.
I'd rather just pay, whatever the raw price. Like I had last year I had a Nolan Ryan rookie raw because
Nice.
all my vintage stuff is raw. And I think I brought it to a card show, and the guy was like, "Well, I think it might get like a 4 or 5," which I agree with. It wasn't in great condition. And he goes, "You're better off just selling it as a raw card instead of sending it in to get graded." So I think I sold it for like $100, $150. I mean, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about like I have a 57 Willie Mays that I think is I think it's a mint condition. I mean, the corners are perfect, the centering is perfect. And then if I send it in and maybe it comes back a 4, I just wasted all that money to get it graded.
Well, you can do minimum grades, so that's what I do a lot too. I will submit like 10 cards to one of the grading companies, and I will say minimum gem mint or don't grade it. So the deal is you're going to pay for all those cards as if they were graded, but maybe only 3 of them will get graded and the rest of them will come back raw. But to your point, it's perfect for you because they only grade the stuff that they deem to be gem mint, and the rest of them just come back to you the way they were.
And you have to pay for that anyway, right?
Yeah, you do. That's the bummer. Sometimes I've had some deals in the past where I had like large volume submissions, and they gave me a deal on cards that didn't make the grade, like they maybe took $1 off the grading fees or something, but you still end up paying quite a bit.
It's kind of funny how these companies just created a category, right? Like, was anyone begging for cards to be graded in 20 years ago? I mean, was that was that happening?
I mean, there must have been a demand. I don't know. Well, I do know when, during the 90s is when a lot of counterfeiting started. So I think there was a need. Like I'm a fan of grading, so I don't mind it. But the graders are making hand over fist. Like Beckett, I think that is their biggest stream of revenue is by far the grading more than anything else. And obviously PSA does well. They have a super long backlog of cards to grade. But it's amazing that there's no shortage of people willing to pay $10 to $25 a card just to have somebody else look at it and tell you what grade they think it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always skeptical of how that whole thing works. I mean, if my best friend was a grader, couldn't I just send a million cards in and have him?
I wish your best friend was a grader, Eddie. I'd submit some cards.
Shoot me some 10s back, but yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, they've figured out a way to turn junk into something that's worth something. So
it's and what really blows me away is when there is a card that is essentially worthless raw,
right?
But there are very few of them in like gem mint 10 or 9.5, depending on the company. And so you take this, 1983 Steve Balboni that, for some reason it's condition sensitive and you get it graded at 10, and all of a sudden it's $1,000 card because of all the set collectors out there that need it for their master set. And they're willing to pay you a crazy amount of money for a card that you maybe spent 10 cents on and then got graded. I mean, so at one point in time, I was trying to grade sets. I had a couple of sets that I wanted to get fully graded. That is the biggest money suck of all time for the exact same reason. You're grading commons, and it's so expensive. I don't know how people do that, but there's some wild fully graded sets out there.
So how do they determine what price you're going to pay to get something graded? Is it based on the value that you think it is, or how do they determine what the value is?
That's a good question. So there are tiers. So typically, like a tier will say card can't be valued over like $499. Otherwise, you've got to go up to the next tier, which is more expensive to get it graded. But the problem is there's some gray area there because I've always heard that it is it is the value that you deem it. So like if I say my Nolan Ryan is $100 card, I send it in, but technically the market value is like 1,000. They can charge you whatever the $1,000 would be, even though you marked it as $100 card. So there's some gray area there in what they decide a card is valued at. But now, and I've heard this happen a bunch, although it's never happened to me, if you send a card in and it hits a certain grade, and then at this new grade is worth more than you said it was worth, you have to pay the difference between the different grading tiers. Does that make sense? You following me?
Yep.
So I think that's crazy. I think if you send a card in raw and it's worth that amount, you should be covered. And if you end up getting a great grade, awesome. But I don't think you should be penalized because your card graded better than maybe you thought it would, or it went up in value because it was graded. I mean, why else would we get cards graded?
Yeah, I wonder if this is the second coming of the bubble, but who knows? You know,
man, it might be. I mean, the signs would tell you it could be.
Yeah, I mean, when I see people who have never collected cards before texting me pictures of baseball cards, that's a bad sign.
Are you considering the first bubble the 90s, I'm guessing?
Oh, yeah. Have you ever read the book Mint Condition?
I haven't, but I'm aware of that book. Is it awesome?
It's a fantastic book. It's pretty much about how Upper Deck ruined the industry.
Well, I mean, I literally, one of my best friends, he tells a story about his dad had an entire storage unit full of cards, like sets, factory sets he bought from the 90s. And he was planning on retiring and like setting the family up with this nest egg he'd put away. And then when the bubble burst and things weren't as valuable as everybody thought they were going to be, like he was just heartbroken.
Right.
You know, he literally filled up a storage unit with probably like 88 Donruss boxes. But yeah, I think there are a lot of those speculators. Unfortunately, hopefully, I don't know. The game has changed quite a bit since the 90s, and there's still a lot of these cards produced, but at least they've got, you know, the tiering and the parallels going on, so there's still some sort of rarity that you can chase in these sets.
Yeah. See, so what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like if you have a 1 of 1, a 1 of 5, and then a 1 of 25, and a 1 of 50, and then a 2 of 50, well, that 1 of 1, that autograph isn't as valuable as people think. I mean, they just had 1,000 of them. They just put different numbers on them.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I like it personally just because I love the idea that I'm able to obtain a card that no one else can say they have. But you're right. Sure. Essentially, there's just a serial number different on mine than you're maybe 1 of 5, and I have the 1 of 1. It appeals to my OCD collecting nature, where I love the idea of having one card in like 5 different colors and different serial numbers on it. But it's not for everybody, and I think a lot of people really don't dig that manufactured rarity that they're creating now versus, you know, when we started collecting, if a card was rare, it was rare because there just weren't any around. It wasn't because somebody put just one of those cards in packs that year.
Yeah, I think that what's going to end up happening eventually is I wonder if digital cards will ever become a thing where you can basically, because think about it, right? Who did you speculate on when you were a kid, right? We speculated on the guys that we thought were going to be good. You know, I remember I used to stockpile rookie cards of guys that you think might be good, and that the better they did, the more their cards would go up.
Yeah.
But then that kind of stopped not being really the case anymore. It was more about, oh, well, you know, it was the Lou Whitaker or the Mike Heath card that was worth, you know, the 89 Flair Mike Heath or whatever. So I wonder if that'll be a thing where, you know, there'll be digital cards and there'll be a way to take them out of production. You know, the better the guy gets, there'll be less of them, or they'll go up, right? That way you're kind of betting on, you know, on how good they're going to be as opposed to how rare their card is.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, in general, I'm not. I have zero interest in digital cards because
I don't either, really.
I like to have it in my hand. I like to be able to look at it. You know,
Yeah.
I like to be able to trade them. I guess you could still trade digital cards, but I mean, I would be shocked if digital cards didn't become more popular. You know, Panini has started releasing these blockchain cards. Have you followed those at all?
No, I haven't.
Well, there's actually a physical card, and then there is a card that is tracked on the blockchain. If you're familiar with cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
like Bitcoin was created on the blockchain. It's just a ledger where they can track all the transactions that Bitcoin goes through. Well, I don't know exactly how these cards are related to blockchain, other than they're called blockchain. But there is apparently a ledger that Panini has created or had created for them where they can track all the people that have owned this card, this particular card, the digital version of that card, I should say. So there's, again, also a physical version, and I'm pretty sure they're identical, but it's an interesting concept. I don't know. I can't like wrap my simpleton mind around it yet, but I'm sure there's some cool aspects to that.
I had an idea last year, which I thought would be interesting, was a place where you could have fractional ownership of cards, right? Where like, so it would be, you know, a centralized website, if you will, where they would physically buy the cards. So you buy like a 52 Topps Mantle. Now, obviously, I can't afford one, but maybe I could afford to own 10% of one, right?
Exactly. We could buy a Wagner. You and I could have like a 1% of a Wagner.
Right, and you could have like your digital portfolio where you had all these cards, and then you'd be able to sell those shares of the card to trade upgrade to buy a different card.
This is a good idea.
I thought
I like this idea.
I don't know how it could be executed, but I did think
you need to say I'm trademarking this idea right now because we'll have evidence of it.
It'd be kind of
cool.
So
Eddie trademarks this concept. That's a great idea, dude.
I mean, it's an interesting concept, right? Because you'd be able to like pull out your phone to your friends and say, "Oh, check out my, you know, I just picked up 10% of a Jordan rookie, you know, this week."
So, well, where would you house these cards? Is there like some central holding place where they're actually kept?
Right. It'd have to be a central holding place.
Okay.
You'd have to operate like Bitcoin does, where you could buy a percentage of Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a full one. You could buy a percentage of one. And then as the market goes up, you can sell it to somebody else, or you know, however you want to do that. So obviously,
so your percentage ownership,
right? Yeah,
I love that, man. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
That's to me that makes sense. That would appeal to a lot of collectors too.
Right, and then you know the site would obviously take a fee per transaction, but yeah, I mean I thought it was interesting because I know myself, I'm like, that'd be kind of cool.
I would totally get on that. Think about this: your portfolio would look like a collection. It would be scans, digital scans of all the assets you have a percentage of.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I thought of it. I talked to a few people about it. You know, we weren't really sure how what the execution would be, but maybe that's something that might happen someday, where you'll be able to do that, especially when you see Luka Doncic cards going for $200,000. It's like, who can afford that?
Do you own any Lukas?
I don't, and I was going to, and then I saw Gary Vee talking about him on Twitter, and I'm like, well, I missed that one.
Are you anti Gary Vee, or you just know?
No, I love
the time he talks about something, everybody.
I love Gary Vee. Like I listen to him all the time. I
do too.
I'm not gonna not like the guy because he loves sports cards, and I love that he loves sports cards. And if I had that much money, I'd still be doing it too because I love that whole like we said, the chase, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fault the guy for liking to do that. He has a big advantage, like I said, I mean, he has a huge following. I don't think that he's probably doing it, but he could, he could do like 50 Cent used to do, where he would pick up stocks and then 6 months later tout them on Twitter.
Talk about him. Yeah.
And then he got in trouble for that. But I could see that maybe happening, but it's not his fault that he's got 10 million followers.
I think
he's good for the hobby. I think.
I totally agree, and I was watching Gary Vee's stuff before I even knew he was in the sports cards.
Oh,
but once I saw he was in the sports cards, I was like, we're a match made in heaven. This is why I like this guy, because deep down, he's a sports card collector and a dealer. And he said that was his first business was selling cards at card shows. I mean,
right.
Yeah, I love his enthusiasm about sports cards because it seems completely genuine. People give him a hard time for, doing this, doing that, affecting the market, but he genuinely loves sports cards, and I appreciate that because I know he's having fun when he's out buying Giannis.
Well,
prisms.
He said that he loves the idea of flipping sports cards. He says he doesn't collect them.
But he has cards on his bookcase behind him in all his videos that never change.
Yeah,
so
I guess that's true.
I think he probably still has some cards, and he said he's got Joe Namath cards too. So I know he's such a big Jets fan. I'm sure he's got some cards. That he doesn't plan on flipping.
Yeah, I mean, he's helping out the hobby. Like if I was someone that sold a lot of stuff, then I'd be extremely happy.
Yeah.
So,
true.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens. Let's see. I'm a victim.
Here we go.
Hold on. I'm a victim of Gary Vee.
Nice.
I picked up all these Pete Alonso. Yeah, but I bought them before he started talking about them. Because I do this every year where I'm like, I'll pick up a bunch of rookie cards at the beginning of the season. I didn't realize I didn't know there was gonna be a pandemic, and then I'll sell them and then go buy some Bo Jacksons.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not into the modern stuff. Like, I had a bunch of Aaron Judge's the Bowman Chrome auto rookies.
Mm-hmm.
I bought those because I saw how big he was, and I'm like, wow, if this guy could ever get a hold of a ball,
he's a monster.
He might hit a lot of home runs. And I'm a Yankees fan, so I bought them for like $65 each, I think it was. And I picked up 10 of them, and then I sold them after the All-Star break when he hit 35 home runs or whatever at the All-Star break, and he was a monster. And that was probably the best that I've ever done on a card before. Was that?
That was a good move.
Yeah.
So who do you like currently baseball-wise? Do you like Bobby Witt? Do you like Dominguez? Or who are you liking the way they're looking?
Well, I mean, I like Gleyber Torres.
Gleyber Torres is a stud.
Yeah.
The Yankees have a great young lineup, don't they?
They do. I really, really like Clint Frazier. I really hope that, and I probably like him more because my son has red hair too, and I want someone to have red hair that could be really good in baseball, especially because we're both Yankee. He's a Yankee fan too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, Clint Frazier, can he get up to the minors? And his card, can he get to the majors? His cards are still relatively inexpensive, and he's a great player. He just got a lot of guys in front of him. He just needs a chance.
I like that.
So.
So you aren't a Red Sox fan at all?
No. Oh my God, no.
Uh-oh. But how far are you outside Boston?
What's that?
How far are you from Boston?
15 minutes.
Okay. So how did you end up being a Yankees fan?
Well, I grew up in Connecticut. I moved here about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I molded my kids to be Yankee fans. I don't care.
Hey, it's a good team to follow.
We go to Fenway, and we're all dressed up in our got our Yankee stuff on. So
that's hardcore, man.
Got to keep the rivalry alive.
So, are you a Celtics fan or are you a Knicks fan?
Yeah, see, it's weird, right? So when you grew up in Connecticut, you had to root for either the Pistons, the Lakers, or the Celtics because we didn't have
the Lakers.
We didn't have an MSG when I was a kid, so we didn't get to see the Knicks. So
every
day, every weekend it was the Lakers, the Pistons, or the Celtics on TV. And I just I fell in love with Larry Bird. I feel like anyone who was around 10 years old in 1987 is probably a Mattingly Larry Bird, Bo Jackson fan, and I don't think it's that rare to like those three teams.
I totally agree. I felt like when we were little, I don't know if it felt the same for you, but kids were able to like random teams and random athletes and weren't judged as hardcore as they are now for not liking the local guys. Because when I was little, I grew up outside Kansas City. Of course, I loved the Royals, but I also loved the Red Sox. I loved Mike Greenwell and Wade Boggs and Ellis Burks and Roger Clemens and Jody Reed. I loved that team, Terry Steinbach. And wait, was Terry Steinbach the catcher? He was, right?
No, Rich Gedman was.
Okay. Well, I don't know why Steinbach was in my head. But anyways, that Red Sox team was greatness during the late 80s. And I loved those guys. And people, my local friends were like, what connection do you have to the Boston Red Sox? I'm like, I don't know. I just like the players. And I mean, it was through collecting cards, of course, because like I knew those guys and decided I liked all the dudes with the mustaches. And so they all played for the Red Sox.
That's funny. Yeah, I rooted for the Royals. I remember the game Baseball Stars for Nintendo.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I recreated the Royals because of Bo Jackson. So I had like Bo Jackson, Kevin Seitzer, Jim Eisenreich, Mark Gubicza. I had the whole. I recreated the whole team with all the stats and stuff. Because I love Bo. I loved Bo so much, and the Yankees were terrible back then. But
so I heard this interesting take the other day on Twitter. One of my friends, Jake Roy, shout out Jake, 90s b-ball guy. I posted a picture of a Bo Jackson card, and he told me that Bo Jackson he thought was the greatest running back of all time.
Yeah.
And he said, of course, he didn't have as long a career, but he thought that if Bo had like a normal career, like played as many games like Emmett or Barry, he would have had better stats and would have been a more recognized running back than those guys. And who knows, man, he was wildly good when he played.
I mean, he averaged 5.7 yards a carry, I think. I mean, I think he's the best running back of all time. I don't even think it's close.
Really? So you do too?
Yes, okay. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not going to hold the fact that he was so strong, he ripped his own leg apart, his hip away from his leg. The guy was a beast. Do I think he was a great baseball player? I think he was a good baseball player. I mean,
do you remember he caught that barehanded kind of ball in the outfield with his bare hand?
I mean, the guy
he had a cannon from the outfield.
Right.
I mean, he was just so good at everything.
He was larger than life. I'm kind of surprised that his stuff isn't worth more, to be honest.
It does okay. It still has a collector's base, but I agree.
Yeah, it does okay, but some of the stuff that I'm like, wow, that's all that is for Bo. I mean, Bo Jackson is a folk hero. He's like Paul Bunyan.
Let me just tell you now, you've got to recognize the athletes that are now going to have the Last Dance type documentaries made after them. I can easily see one be of Bo Jackson, and his cards would go through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, they did that 30 for 30 on him. But yeah, if they did something on Bo, I don't know if he would do that though. He's pretty humble guy.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see if he would even be interested in it.
I would love to hear his story from Auburn and everything, man.
What is your feeling on these live breaks that you see happen? Do you have
group breaks?
Yeah. Do you have an opinion on? I've never done those before, but do you have an opinion on those?
Okay. Well, I mean, I have an opinion. I think they're fine. I think they're not necessarily for me because I have too addictive of a personality to do stuff like that, and I would end up going too deep into those. But I think they're great, especially for people that collect specific teams. They're awesome because you can go in and buy a team and only take home those cards. I don't know. I mean, I guess to me, the big drawback, and I don't really see too much of a drawback with group breaks, is that they do drive up the price of boxes.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, you know, I think they're fine. I mean, if that's your thing, again, it's not necessarily my thing. I know a lot of people love them. I mean, they've become wildly popular, and those group breakers are doing well. Like they're staying busy.
Interesting. Okay.
Have you ever done one?
I've never done one. I don't really know how they work. I've seen some videos online where it didn't look exactly on the up and up.
On the up and up.
You know, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but
well, my buddy Ty Wilson with Breaker Culture, he goes through and he actually does reviews of all the breakers, so you can see like if they're on his site, like he trusts them and they thought they did a good job. But the way, just so you know, the way most of the breaks work is you'll go through and they'll have teams at certain prices depending on the players that would be in that year's team is kind of dictates the price. So if it's a team with the hottest rookie in the league, they're probably going to be the most expensive, and then so on and so forth. So you go in and you pay for whatever that team costs, and then as the break happens, you get all the cards from that particular team that come out of the box or the case.
Oh, interesting. So you don't just pay for the actual pack then? Wouldn't that be more?
No. I mean, so I guess some people do that where they will pay a breaker to open a box for them. But
right,
in my opinion, why would you ever do that unless you're getting some great price to do it through them? But I would much rather open it myself.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay. So what's the good stuff to get? I mean, that's my biggest gripe with the today's world is that there's 5,000 different brands.
I know, brother.
And I don't know what is what, you know?
I mean, there are like 20 different basketball, football, and baseball products, like literally 20 for each sport, if not more. So I don't know. I stick with a couple of sets that I really like.
Okay.
And then I just kind of stick with those. So depending on the sport.
For baseball, what do you like?
Baseball, I stick with like Topps. I love Topps Update. It's great. I just stick with the flagship Topps and flagship Bowman typically.
Okay. Is it Bowman Chrome? Do you like
simple?
Is that?
I like Bowman Chrome. Yeah, yeah.
All right, and
then
and
I love the Topps Chrome too.
Okay, and then football, is it Panini Contenders? Is that, or Playoff Contender? Is that the one that everybody likes?
So it's by Panini, but I don't think it's Playoff Contenders anymore. I think it's just Contenders. Playoff used to own that brand. I don't think they do anymore. I think it's all just under Panini now. I could be wrong, but so Contenders is really popular for football.
Okay.
But then of course so is Prism and Optic are also very popular. And then you go into the the real like high end stuff like National Treasures and Flawless.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've got something for everyone. I mean that is the good thing about having 28 different football products or whatever it is there is something for the kids. There's something for the ultra high end collector, and there's something for like someone like myself who's kind of middle of the road on cards as far as the sets I like to collect.
Right. Okay. And then for basketball, what is the best one for basketball?
I'm in between Prism and Optic on that. Donruss Optic is
really?
it's basically like yeah.
Oh, they do.
So they're all Panini brands. Yeah. So Panini's got the NBA license.
Okay. Wait, Panini owns that? They don't own Donruss, do they?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they own a ton of brands.
Okay, interesting. Because for football, I think for football, is it football or baseball where Donruss can't show the logos?
That's baseball because Panini doesn't have the MLB license.
Okay. All right, so the licensing ruined the baseball card industry.
It definitely changed the game. It's unfortunate because it's tough for me to get interested in the cards where you can't see the team.
No, me too. Absolutely.
Team logo.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm the same. I'm the same way. I pulled a like a Dwight Gooden Donruss autograph with no logo. I'm like, what is this? Might as well be like a cut auto, So
Yeah, yeah.
all right.
That's a whole nother thing. I can't really.
Do
Not
you?
really down with the cut autos, and I'm not into jersey pieces. Like
I don't like
people love
I don't
that
like the
stuff.
jerseys. I do like the cut autos though.
Okay.
Like an actual cut auto where like I bid on a it was a Dr. Seuss autograph.
Oh, that's cool.
Like PSA DNA, like just a cut auto in a slab. Like I like those because I do think it's kind of cool to own a piece of history somehow.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not really into the autos on the cards. That doesn't really do anything for me. I'd rather have it on like a baseball or just a slabbed like real autograph that they were doing in life, not that because here's something I'll tell you that I noticed, and I won't say who the person is because I'm happen to be friends with them.
Okay.
I know this person personally, right? And I have their autograph on a bunch of stuff, and it's a beautiful autograph. So then I saw that there was a they had a card that they did where there was maybe 500 autographs that they had to sign, right? The autograph is not the same. There's no way it was the same person, and that made me think that wasn't the only time that could happen, right? It could be like
wait. So this is your friend, and you noticed their autograph wasn't the same on a card.
I know 100%. Yeah.
Did you ask them?
No, because it's none of my business. I don't need to get into it's none of my business, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, but
right.
But I could imagine a situation where they send you the cards to autograph, and maybe you just have your agent do it for you.
And your mom is sitting on the couch next to you, and you're like, "Please sign these, Mom."
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if that's actually what could be happening.
Who's to say? I mean, I don't know. I know like Panini and Topps, they do the very best they can to try to keep a tab on that, but it would be tough to keep a tab on all that when you're sending the cards. I wonder if it's impossible for them to just have them sign at an event where they're able to watch it all just to make sure there's no funny business involved.
I mean, you remember the Eli Manning fiasco, right? From 10 years ago.
No, I don't remember.
It was with I think it was Upper Deck where they were putting game used jerseys. It was when they had the game used jersey cards.
Okay.
And, where they were slicing them up or whatever, and he would change into a jersey at halftime for like 10 seconds and then take it off, and then they would cut the jersey
game used
and put it on the cards and call it game used. And people were like, "Whoa, that's not cool."
Yeah.
For 10 seconds, like, what are you bidding on? What are you trying to get?
And it makes a big difference price wise. People
Absolutely.
love game use stuff, so it is. I mean that's
why I'm not really into the gimmicky stuff. I'm more like base cards, and I want it to be naturally rare as opposed to manufactured rare.
I like it.
Yeah. Do you have anything on your bucket list, card wise, that you'd like to be able to get that is obtainable?
So I'll tell you for my show, when I first started doing it, I had 5 cards that I called my the Pack Geek pull list or hit list or something, and these were cards that I wanted to pull on camera myself. And there's still, I think, 4 of them I haven't hit. The one was the Jerry Rice rookie. I pulled that, but I want to do a Jordan 86 Fleer rookie on camera.
Yeah,
I want to do a George Brett 75 Topps, either mini or regular. I want to do a Mickey Mantle game, like playing years base card out of a pack. I mean, this is getting so expensive and silly.
Yeah.
The other one was like a Gretzky rookie.
Oh, that's a good card.
Back when I started this, it was much more doable because packs weren't as crazy expensive as they are now. But now they basically price in you having that card in the pack.
I know.
Whether you do or not, so it's tough to justify it anymore. But that's the goal. Like if I had to pull one of those, it would be the George Brett rookie card. That's always been one I've wanted to actually pull out of a pack myself.
What does an 86 Flair basketball pack go for?
Oh, dude, $500 or $600.
Wow. And that was like an 800. Was that like a 700 card set?
No, it's 132 cards. It's actually really small. Yeah. So out of one box, you average 2 to 3 Jordans.
Oh, all right. Well, that's not bad. How much is a box? So a box has got to be like what, 15,000?
Oh man, no. I think the boxes are going for like 40 or 50 grand right now.
Wow.
And they might be going more now that the cards are getting so expensive with The Last Dance. So I don't know what they're currently going for, but I think they were 50K before The Last Dance started.
Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, see, I have one card that, the Magic Bird card I want to pick up. See, there's a couple cards that I'll have to have graded. You know, like I'd buy, if I was going to get a Gretzky rookie, I'd have to have a graded one just to make sure it was real.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't care if it was like a PSA 3 or 4 or whatever.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah. But there's one card that I've been searching for, and it's the 1990 Topps George Bush card.
Really? Yeah, I know that card.
I want that card in my collection, and there's not a lot out there. I think there was maybe like 20 something that were made.
Weren't they just made for him and his cabinet members or something?
Yep.
But they were never in packs, right?
There was like a mayor in New Hampshire who had one, who I've been trying to contact, you know, to see if he'd be willing to sell it.
Yeah.
So I guess there were 2 versions of it. There was like a glossy version that was given to the people in the White House, and then there was another version that I guess was given to him to be able to give out to friends and family.
And it's him in his Yale uniform, right?
Yes.
That's so cool. That's a great card, man. And what a great story behind it. Well, we got to get you one. Let's see what we can do.
I gotta find somebody who has one. That's all I gotta do.
Let's start a Twitter campaign and get you one. Do you know anybody who has one?
I don't. Nope. I don't know anyone who has one.
Man. I thought you were going to go with the Frank Thomas no name. You went big.
I saw I saw somebody selling a raw one last year. I think he wanted like, I don't know, like 1,500 or 1,200 for it. I'm like, I'm not gonna spend that on a raw. That, especially for that card, you want to have that graded to make sure it's legit.
Right.
You know. Right. But yeah, if I could find someone with that so the George Bush is that's like number 1 on my bucket list.
I love it. What a random card, and I love it that that's your number 1.
But yeah, because it was, you know, just because of the story behind it, how it was given to him, and he had to decide who gets to have it. You know, it's kind of a cool thing behind it.
I think it's awesome, man. So I wonder.
Plus he's from Connecticut. You know, being from Connecticut, played at Yale. So.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. I wonder how many of them are still out there, because you got to think some of those people that got them didn't care anything about cards and probably misplaced a couple of them. So,
that's actually really interesting. You're probably right, because back then they probably got them. They probably thought of it as like, you know, like a gimmick thing where it's like, this is funny, and then they just like throw it somewhere, right?
We need to do like an article on this card.
Yeah, I got to do more.
That would be interesting to do some research on.
Now I want to find out every single person who was given one.
There's the premise for your story, and what could have happened to those cards.
Right. So
we can start tweeting at all the people that maybe had one and see if anybody responds.
Yeah, like I said, I know one person who has it. You know, this mayor in like some random town in New Hampshire, and I've been trying to get in touch with them to see if they still have it, if the family has it. You know, to see what they'd want for it. I don't even know what they go for. I think last I saw was maybe like between like 2,000 and 3,000, maybe.
Okay.
The last I saw.
What a cool card.
Yeah, I doubt any of them are graded. I can't imagine that they're sending them into PSA to be graded.
I bet you're right.
You know,
unless someone sold one to someone. But have you checked the pop report to see if any of them have been graded?
I should do that, but no, I haven't checked that.
That
is a good idea. Yeah. Well, listen, man, I'm gonna let you get out of here, but hey, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. Where can people find you and see your videos?
Dude, thank you so much. Well, all of my stuff is at Pack Geek, so PACK Geek. You can find me on YouTube first and foremost. Please go check the show out. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and I would love to connect with you guys.
Cool, man. Yeah, so you've got a decent amount of subscribers. I'm trying to get to that elusive 100 subscriber list, right? So you can get the custom URL on YouTube.
Oh yeah. Well, that's doable. You can hit that.
I think so. I think
subscribe to you.
I just started this like a few weeks ago, so we're still trying to get it out there. But yeah, I appreciate you taking some time tonight to come on, man. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, thanks for having me, Eddie. That was fun.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you.
All right. See you later.
All right. Take care.